All right, Chads and Chadettes, welcome back. I'm Dexter, and this is your DexlShort Intelligence Briefing for November 5th. We're going to cut right through all the noise to get you that sweet, sweet signal. Let's dive in.
So what is going on in the market today? I mean, on one hand, you've got Bitcoin taking a bit of a nosedive, testing some really critical levels, but then you look over at Ripple and it is just ripping on some massive news. So what's the signal in all this noise? Let's figure it out.
Okay, first things first, let's follow the money. We're seeing some wild swings out there, which, is actually great for us because it gives us a real-time map of where the retail crowd is putting their cash.
And speaking of cash flow, wow, check this out. MMT, also known as Mammoth, just hit Binance and boom, it went vertical. We're talking over 1,300% on day one. Now look, a move like that, it's a massive red flag. It's basically a giant vacuum sucking liquidity out of other coins, and it sets the stage for an absolutely brutal reversal. This is pure, unadulterated momentum chasing, so you gotta be careful.
And speaking of retail, get this. Robinhood's crypto revenue for Q3, it's up a staggering 339% compared to last year. Now that is a signal you can't ignore. It tells us the little guy is coming back, they're waking up, and they're using the regulated on-ramps to do it. Super bullish for exchange tokens and really anything that the retail crowd loves.
All right, let's talk about the main event. Let's talk about Bitcoin, because right now it is facing a serious pressure test. And to really get what's going on, we can't just stare at the price chart. Nope, we got to go deeper. We have to look at the on-chain data, the story the blockchain itself is telling us.
So here's the deal. Bitcoin just slipped below that big $100,000 mark. And yeah, that's a huge psychological line in the sand. But what's way more important, technically speaking, is that we are now testing the 365-day moving average. This is the line the bulls absolutely have to defend.
And part of the reason for all this pressure? We're seeing a massive distribution event. The long-term holders, the diamond hands, they've offloaded around 300,000 Bitcoin. That is a textbook late-cycle signal, folks. So the question on everyone's mind is, is this just shaking out the weak hands? Or is this the start of something much, much uglier?
But, okay, let's look at the other side of the coin. Right now, almost 29% of all Bitcoin is underwater. It's at a loss. And historically, when you see this much pain in the market, that's usually when the panic sellers finally give up. That's when capitulation happens. And for smart money, that can be a huge buying opportunity. In fact, this level has often marked a local bottom in the past.
And of course, we can't ignore the big picture, the macro stuff. With the US government shutdown, you've got a pretty significant liquidity drain. Think of it like the tide going out on the whole financial system. There's just less cash sloshing around. In a tighter dollar environment, that's almost always bad news for risk assets like Bitcoin.
So yeah, Bitcoin's facing some serious headwinds. But while that's happening, Ripple is playing a completely different game. I mean, they are telling a totally different story. Let's flip the script and look at the bullish case here. Because these guys are not just surviving the bear market, they are building an empire right through it. First off, get this. Ripple just locked in a $500 million funding round. $500 million! In this market? That is an insane signal of strength. It basically gives them a massive war chest to go on the offensive while everyone else is playing defense.
And that funding round? It puts Ripple at a new valuation of $40 billion. Let that sink in. $40 billion. That tells you that the big, serious money, the smart money, is betting big on their long-term plan for payments and tokenizing, well, everything.
And this isn't just some far-off vision, okay? It's happening right now. Their stablecoin, RLUSD, has already blown past $1 billion in supply. That's the kind of scale, the kind of deep liquidity that institutions need to actually start using this stuff for real-world cross-border payments.
And here it is. This is the whole ballgame. Ripple and Mastercard are actively piloting on-chain settlements for card payments. Think about that. They're building a bridge between the trillions of dollars flowing through traditional finance and the insane efficiency of crypto rails. This right here is what actual real-world adoption looks like. It's not a meme coin, it's this.
Okay, let's zoom out for a second. Because all of this crazy innovation isn't happening in a vacuum. It's happening at the exact moment that governments all over the world are finally getting their act together and writing the rule book for crypto.
And you can see this trend everywhere. I mean, look, Canada is putting a stablecoin framework right into their national budget. The UK is syncing up their rules with the US to make things easier. Bermuda's already running pilots for on-chain compliance. The takeaway is clear. We're moving from the Wild West to a world with clear, defined rules.
And it's not just a top-down thing either. It's happening from the ground up. Tether just signed a deal with the city of Da Nang in Vietnam. They're going to explore tokenizing real-world assets, putting things like real estate or fine art onto the blockchain. And these city-level deals are huge because they're the little seeds that grow into national policy, especially in a region as dynamic as APAC. All right, last section. Let's look ahead. What's on the horizon? Because there are a couple of huge infrastructure plays and launches coming up that you absolutely have to have on your radar. Okay, two big ones to watch. First, the TradFi giant WisdomTree is now piping live fund data directly to Chainlink. This might sound boring, but it's not. It's the critical plumbing, the behind-the-scenes work that has to happen before tokenized funds can become a reality. And second, keep your eyes on November 24th. That's when the Monad mainnet and its MON token go live. This thing is built for speed, and it's going to be competing hard for developers and, more importantly, for capital.
So let's bring it all together. What's the big picture? On one hand, you have a classic market shakeout. It's designed to test your conviction, to scare you out of your position. But at the exact same time, the most serious, deep-pocketed players in the space are quietly laying the foundation for the next massive cycle. So I'll just leave you with this question. Are you positioned for what comes next?
And that is your high-signal briefing for the day, Chads and Chadettes. Look, if you want to go way deeper on all this stuff, you have to join Mr. and Mrs. Dexl and me on the DexlCast. We break it all down every single Saturday. Until then, stay sharp.